Well, it is a pleasure to be first back at Washington and Lee. I'm sure that many of you in the audience share that joy. It's always great to come back here, and I had a few minutes to stand outside of Lee Chapel just a little while ago and look at the colonnade and remember the first time I saw it. And it does make you choke up. It's a wonderful place to be, and a great honor and very flattering effect of having been invited to come back and participate here with these real scholars. My experience is based on experience. I came to Roanoke in 1949, choosing that as a site on which I felt that the one-party dominated political situation in Virginia could be changed. I hoped and chose Roanoke as a place to work to create a two-party democracy in Virginia that would first abolish the machine politics that we'd known for 3 or 4 generations, and second, enable Virginians to have a choice in all of the major political contests that were to come. It was an entirely different situation in Virginia then, from a nomenclature standpoint at least, because the word Republican still wasn't a very acceptable word. I remember well a comment made by an old-time Democratic politician in the clerk's office in the municipal building in Roanoke, when somebody teased him a little bit about a nephew who was going to run for city council as a Republican. And Mr. Baer rose up to his full 5'7" height and said, "He didn't get any of that damn smut off of me." That's where we were when we started to build a Republican Party in Virginia. And now it's almost exactly the reverse. The damn smut is on the Democratic Party. But we do have a choice. And I'm partially responsible for us having that choice. And though I'm accused by some of my party members today, and I do insist that I'm still a Republican, but I'm accused by some of my fellow party members of being not only a maverick, but indeed a traitor. That was what I was called across the dining room to a friend of mine not long ago in downtown Kilmarnock, Virginia. Well, I help provide a choice for the citizens of Virginia, and I don't intend to be deprived of that choice myself. With that background, let's think a little bit about what has developed in the presidential contests this year. We have a nominee of the Democratic Party that 2 years ago nobody could have predicted. Everybody then thought that Hillary Clinton was the clear front runner, and unless something happened, certainly would be the Democratic nominee. Something did happen. Barack Obama had not only made a magnificent and inspiring speech to the Democratic Convention in 2004, but he similarly raised the expectations and excitement of the entire populace with a speech that he made after winning the primary, or I guess it was caucuses, in Iowa. He really turned it on, and everybody reacted. It was the beginning of a new favorite, and in spite of extremely active political contest, he beat Hillary Clinton, and brought the Democratic Party to an opportunity that is almost unsurpassable. I think the race really began to be over about 2 weeks ago. I was concerned because I do support Obama. I can give you a couple of reasons for that in a minute. But I was concerned a little over 2 weeks ago that maybe the tide was turning against Obama. But it began to switch, and I think the tide has clearly turned in his favor. The polls are beginning to support that. And as Mark Shields on the Lehrer show about 3 months ago commented, in view of the incompetence of the Bush administration, which involved a badly chosen and badly managed war, a complete reversal of Republican fiscal responsibility of by creating the damnedest deficit that we've ever seen in the federal government, by an apparent neglect, maybe more than apparent, of environmental considerations that are most foreboding of our future, and other factors that Mark described, but he summed it up by saying, if the Democrats can't elect a president under these circumstances, they ought to go into the aluminum siding business. I agree with that. On the Republican side, you had a situation where so many people were willing to take a shot at it, and it never was a very highly prized objective in 2008. In 2007 and 2008, it was pretty apparent that the Republicans would have a tough time electing a president in 2008 because of the failures of the Bush organization. But 3 or 4 of them did go ahead and get into those primaries. The result was favorable to John McCain because of his persistence and because of major assistance that came to him from Mike Huckabee. If Huckabee had not been in that race, I think it was clear that Mitt Romney would have been the nominee. But Huckabee pulled the very conservative vote away from Romney and enabled McCain to get the nomination with, in effect, a plurality of the vote. He has done his best throughout the campaign, including an impulsive shoot-from-the-hip choice of a candidate for vice president who clearly is not qualified to take over the presidency. He has spent the entire time of that campaign up until now trying to prove how conservative he is and how completely different he is from the Bush administration. I don't think he will succeed in that, and though obviously his ticket received a little boost from a very capable performance last night by his candidate for vice president, that will pass. That's just a sideshow, and selection or performance of vice presidential candidates never has and really never will have much effect on the outcome of the presidential race itself. It's interesting to see the contest. I favor Obama for various reasons, but I start with the choice of my son-in-law. He's the governor of Virginia, and he endorsed Barack Obama before any other governor outside of Illinois. So I'd create a family rift if I didn't support Barack Obama. But the second thing that impressed me was his brain. And I also went to Harvard Law School, and like my First Lady daughter, avoided very carefully getting anywhere near the building in which the Harvard Law Review was housed. I knew better than to hang around there. It was full of brains. And Barack Obama is one of them and was president of the Harvard Law Review. And I know from experience and observation that involves a substantial amount of brain power, which I think is an absolute essential for the President of the United States in the next 4 years. I don't like to be negative, but I think it would be most preferable to have that kind of quality in the thinking power in the office of the President of the United States rather than somebody who came out fifth from the bottom at the Naval Academy. The second thing is the failures of the Bush administration. How in the world any group of people that included Don Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, people whom I knew and worked with when I was in the federal government, could have made the decision to get into a war on the basis that they got into it. Rumsfeld sought to explain it after they had encountered some failures, as you have to go with the army you've got. I would much prefer that if you're going to undertake a war, you make sure that you've got the army that can handle it before you get into it, and not make a bunch of foolish predictions like, oh, it'll be over in 60 days, we'll be greeted with flowers strewed on the streets as we go in victory, and we'll hang up a big sign 2 months after we get into it reading "Mission Accomplished." We also have seen an administration that first denied the existence of global warming. I don't know what they were looking at on television when they showed those pictures of those glaciers melting and falling into the sea. But they denied the existence of a condition that was creating those glaciers to melt, and then adamantly insisted that man had not caused it. It was purely cyclical, and we didn't need to do anything about it. God would take care of it. There were other equally drastic failures, including those deficits that 2 and 3 generations from now will be paying off. We're in a mess, and we need to make the changes that are available by going to the other party. It fits with the philosophy and the advocacy that I have stood for since 1950 when I first got into politics in Virginia. I want you, I've always said, to vote for the candidate that you think will be best for the state, regardless of party. We have that choice this time, and that's all I ask of anybody. Just vote the way you think it ought to be for the outcome for the country and not for the party. I think we better stop and let you ask questions. Thank you.